Let's make it rich in emotion, subtle in tension, and full of twists, beginning from the moment the mother hears, "We got married yesterday." The sound of the kettle was the only thing filling the kitchen that morning. A soft hiss, a faint whistle, the smell of something burning slightly at the edges. May turned the stove off before the kettle screamed, as she always did. The habit of a lifetime. She poured the tea, checked the clock, and realized she'd been awake since 4:30 a.m. again. The house was quiet, too quiet, except for the faint hum of the refrigerator and the distant cry of a crow outside. It was her daughter's birthday today, or it should have been a normal day. She picked up her phone, stared at the last text she'd sent. "When is the wedding, darling?" Her thumb hovered over the screen. It had been 2 hours since she'd sent it. 2 long hours of nothing. When the reply came, it wasn't a text. It was a voice note. Short. Almost cheerful. "We got married yesterday." May froze. The phone almost slipped from her hand. Yesterday. She pressed play again. The voice was calm, even happy.
No hesitación. Nos cham.
Just a casual announcement, as though she'd said, "We went to the park yesterday." May sat down at the kitchen table. The chair creaked under her, the sound unnervingly loud in the silence. She tried to breathe, but her chest felt tight, like she'd been holding her breath for too long. Yesterday, her daughter, her only child, had gotten married. Without her, without a word. She played the message again, noticing the faint noise in the background this time. It wasn't silence, there was something else. A hum. A sound like wind through a tunnel. Or maybe whispering? She turned the volume up. No, it wasn't whispering. It was someone laughing softly. A man's voice, low and distant. Her son-in-law. But there was something about that laugh, something she couldn't quite name. It didn't sound happy. It sounded rehearsed.
May pressed her palm to her forehead. Maybe she was overthinking it. Maybe it was just the shock. After all, her daughter had always been impulsive. When she was 10, she'd once packed a bag and announced she was running away to become an explorer. But this wasn't childish rebellion. This was betrayal. She typed a reply. "Married? Where? Who was there?" Then deleted it. Then typed again. "Congratulations, darling. I didn't know." Deleted that too. Her hands wouldn't stop trembling. She thought of her son-in-law, David. The polite, quiet man with the slightly nervous smile. The one who always avoided eye contact for too long. The one who never laughed unless she did first. She never quite trusted him, though she couldn't have said why. Something about his silences felt deliberate. May stood up, pacing the narrow kitchen. The air felt different, colder, though she hadn't opened a window. She checked her phone again. No more messages. No photos. No explanation. Then, as she turned toward the hallway, she noticed something on the counter. A white envelope. Her name on it, in her daughter's handwriting. She hadn't seen it before. Had it been there this morning? Her hands shook as she opened it. Inside was a single Polaroid photograph. Her daughter, wearing a simple white dress, barefoot, standing in front of what looked like an old wooden church. Her smile was faint, almost forced. Behind her stood David, dressed in a black suit that looked one size too small. His eyes were half closed, his hand resting on her shoulder. But it wasn't the people that chilled May. It was what was behind them. Through the church's open doorway, in the shadowed interior, there was a figure, faint, blurred, almost hidden. A shape that didn't quite fit the light. It looked like someone watching. Or waiting. May blinked, brought the photo closer. Her heart pounded. It couldn't be. She turned it over. On the back, written in her daughter's handwriting. "Don't call yet. It's not safe." The words blurred as May's hands shook harder. The air seemed to press down on her, heavy and close. Not safe. She looked around the empty kitchen, the quiet house, the clock ticking louder now. For the first time in years, she realized she didn't feel alone. but not in a comforting way. There was a presence to the silence. Her phone buzzed. A new message. From her daughter. Just one line. "Mom, if you love me, don't ask questions right now." Maye sat perfectly still. Her reflection in the window looked pale, almost ghostly. She whispered aloud to no one, "Where are you, Anna?" The clock ticked once. Then again. Then stopped. The room fell silent, unnaturally silent. And from somewhere, faint but unmistakable, came the sound of a door creaking open. From the back of the house. The sound came again. That slow, aching creak of a door opening where no door should be. Maye froze. The kettle, the ticking clock, the faint hum of the refrigerator, all seemed to fade out, swallowed by that one sound. She turned her head toward the hallway. The door to the backyard, maybe? But she was sure she'd locked it last night. She always did. Her bare feet made almost no sound as she crossed the kitchen floor. Every step seemed to make the silence thicker, heavier, as if the house itself were holding its breath. When she reached the back door, she saw it, just slightly open, no more than a crack, enough for the cold morning air to whisper in. She pushed it shut quickly and turned the lock. Her hand lingered there a moment longer than it needed to. That's when she noticed mud. Dark, wet footprints on the floor. Not hers. Not from this morning. Her breath caught. They started just inside the doorway and led toward the hallway. She followed them, careful, slow. The prints were faint, fading as they moved deeper into the house, as though whoever had left them had been careful not to be noticed. They stopped at the living room, and there, on the sofa, was her daughter's scarf. Maye touched it. It was damp, like it had been left outside in the rain. Her phone buzzed again. A text from her daughter. "Don't go outside. Please. Just wait until I call." Maye's throat tightened. She typed back instantly. "Are you here? Anna, were you here just now?" No reply. She tried calling, but it went straight to voicemail. The scarf still smelled like her daughter's perfume, lavender, and something faintly metallic beneath it. It was such a small, ordinary thing, but now it felt wrong. Too deliberate. Like it had been placed there for her to find. By evening, Maye had convinced herself she was overreacting. She told herself that maybe the door hadn't been locked properly. Maybe the scarf was just something Anna had left on her last visit. But even as she thought it, she knew it wasn't true. When darkness fell, she made herself a cup of tea, though she didn't drink it. She kept glancing at the photo on the counter, the one from the envelope. The figure in the church doorway seemed clearer now than it had in the morning, as if the shadows had shifted slightly. She thought she could make out an arm, or something like one. She turned the photo over again. The handwriting looked fresh, the ink smudged slightly, as if written in haste. "Don't call yet. It's not safe." Not safe from what? At 9:12 p.m., there was a knock at the front door. Maye jumped, spilling her tea. The sound was soft but steady, 3 knocks, evenly spaced. She waited. Another 3 knocks. She went to the window beside the door and pulled the curtain aside just a fraction. A man stood there. David, her son-in-law. He looked wrong. His face was pale, too pale like paper. His eyes were sunken, dark smudges beneath them. And he was smiling. That same polite, nervous smile she remembered, but stretched wider than it should have been. Maye hesitated, every instinct screaming, "Don't open the door." He called softly, "Mrs. Lang? It's me, David.
Can we talk?"
His voice was calm, but there was something underneath, a tremor, maybe.
Or a strain.
Maye unlocked the door halfway, leaving the chain on. "Where's Anna?" By evening, Maye had convinced herself she was overreacting. She told herself that maybe the door hadn't been locked properly. Maybe the scarf was just something Anna had left on her last visit. But even as she thought it, she knew it wasn't true. When darkness fell, she made herself a cup of tea, though she didn't drink it. She kept glancing at the photo on the counter, the one from the envelope. The figure in the church doorway seemed clearer now than it had in the morning, as if the shadows had shifted slightly. She thought she could make out an arm, or something like one. She turned the photo over again. The handwriting looked fresh, the ink smudged slightly, as if written in haste. Don't call yet. It's not safe. Not safe from what? At 9:12 p.m., there was a knock at the front door. May jumped, spilling her tea. The sound was soft but steady, 3 knocks, evenly spaced. She waited. Another 3 knocks. She went to the window beside the door and pulled the curtain aside just a fraction. A man stood there. David, her son-in-law. He looked wrong. His face was pale, too pale like paper. His eyes were sunken, dark smudges beneath them. And he was smiling. That same polite, nervous smile she remembered, but stretched wider than it should have been. May hesitated, every instinct screaming, "Don't open the door." He called softly, "Mrs. Lang? It's me, David.
Can we talk?"
His voice was calm, but there was something underneath, a tremor, maybe.
Or a strain.
May unlocked the door halfway, leaving the chain on. "Where's Anna?"
He smiled again, tighter this time. "She's fine. We just needed some space." Things happened quickly. "Quickly," she repeated. He nodded. "We didn't plan it. It just happened." May studied his face. There was mud on his shoes. The same color as the footprints in her kitchen. "Did you come inside earlier today?" she asked quietly. David blinked. "Inside?"
No.
"Why would I?" She didn't answer. Something flickered in his expression. Not confusion, not guilt, but something else. Something like recognition. "May I come in?" he asked softly. May's hand tightened on the door.
No.
"Not tonight." He tilted his head slightly, as though listening to something only he could hear. "She told me you'd say that." May's heart pounded. "Who did?" "Anna." He smiled again, but his eyes didn't move. "She said you wouldn't believe me until you saw it for yourself." "See what?" For a moment he didn't speak. Then, in a near whisper, "The man in the picture." May's stomach dropped. She slammed the door shut, locked it, and stepped back. She could still hear him outside, speaking softly through the wood. "She wanted you to know the truth," he murmured. "You'll see soon enough." Then silence. When she looked again, he was gone. That night, May didn't sleep. She sat in the living room with the lights on, clutching her phone. At 2:03 a.m., it buzzed. A new message from an unknown number.
He's not David.
Her throat went dry. She typed back immediately. "Who is this?" No reply. She opened the photo again.
Zoomed in.
The figure in the doorway. Yes, she was sure now. It wasn't a trick of light. There was someone there. And it wasn't David. The outline was broader, heavier. A shadow that didn't belong. She printed the photo, circled the figure with a pen, then sat staring at it under the kitchen light until dawn. By morning, she made a decision. She would find them. Whatever her daughter had gotten herself into, secret marriage, strange warnings, silent figures, May wasn't going to wait anymore. She drove to the address she'd once seen on David's mail, a small cabin 2 towns over, near the old lake. The road was empty, lined with trees that looked skeletal in the fog. When she reached the cabin, it looked deserted. The curtains drawn, the porch steps wet with rain. But there was a car outside, Anna's. May stepped out, her shoes sinking slightly into the mud. The air smelled like pine and something faintly metallic, the same undertone she'd noticed on the scarf. She called her daughter's name once. No answer. Then she saw it, a single light flickering in the window. Someone was inside. She walked to the door and tried the handle. It was unlocked. The inside smelled damp, like the air hadn't moved in days. There were photos pinned to the walls, dozens of them. All of Anna. Some from childhood, some recent. Smiling, laughing, candid moments. But in every photo, when May looked closer,
there was something else. A shape.
A blur.
A shadow just behind her daughter, always the same distance away, always watching. May turned slowly toward the back of the cabin, where the floorboards creaked with movement. Someone whispered her name. A voice she knew. Mom. May spun around. Her daughter stood there in the doorway, pale, trembling, eyes wide. But before May could move, before she could speak, someone stepped into the light behind Anna. It was David. Only this time he wasn't smiling. And his eyes were all wrong. For a long moment, May couldn't speak. Her daughter was standing right there, but there was something fragile about her. Too still, too pale, as if the light had drained from her face. Behind her, David's shadow stretched across the wall, long and crooked, moving even when he didn't. Anna, May whispered. Come here, sweetheart. Her daughter didn't move. Her lips parted slightly, and she said in a trembling voice, You shouldn't have come, Mom. May took a cautious step forward. I had to. You said it wasn't safe. Anna's eyes flickered toward David, and she flinched, just barely. May's stomach turned cold. What's going on? David's voice came, soft and almost kind. Mrs. Lang, you really shouldn't be here. He stepped closer, and May realized what was wrong with his eyes. They didn't blink. Not once. They glistened, too glossy, too still, as if they weren't eyes at all but glass. I just want to talk to my daughter, May said, her voice shaking. He tilted his head, that too wide smile spreading again. You already are. Anna turned sharply. Don't, she whispered. Please don't talk to him like that. He listens. He remembers everything. May's pulse pounded in her ears. What do you mean? David moved to the side of the room, near the wall of photographs. His fingers brushed against one, the photo of Anna as a child, blowing out birthday candles, and the image rippled, like water disturbed by a drop. May gasped. David smiled. Memories are fragile things, Mrs. Lang. Your daughter has been showing me hers. Anna's voice broke. Stop it.
Please stop.
He turned to her, that strange, patient expression never changing. I thought you wanted to forget. Anna's hands flew to her ears. Not like this. May felt her breath catch. Forget what? David's gaze snapped to her. For the first time, his face shifted. The polite mask cracked, revealing something older, darker, beneath. She doesn't remember, he said softly. You made sure of that. May took a step back. What are you talking about? Anna looked up at her mother then, eyes filled with something like terror and grief combined. Mom, she whispered. He showed me. Showed you what? The night Dad died. May froze. Her mouth opened, but no sound came. Anna, that was an accident. David's grin widened. Was it? The room dimmed slightly, as though the light itself recoiled from his words. May stumbled backward. You weren't there? Oh, but I was, he said calmly. Not as you see me now, but I was there. Standing in the doorway. Watching you. May's throat tightened. You're lying. He stepped forward, and the air around him rippled like heat. The photographs on the wall began to shiver in their frames. Anna clutched her head. Stop, please. The images on the wall changed, flickering from happy moments to something else. A storm. A dark road.
Headlights.
A flash of metal. May's scream caught in her throat. No. She turned away, but the images followed, each one sharper, clearer. The night her husband had died. The rain. The argument. The look on his face before the car swerved. David's voice slid through the air like a whisper behind her ear. You said you didn't see him, but you did. May shook her head violently. I didn't mean. It was dark. Anna stared at her. Mom. Tears burned May's eyes. Anna, I tried to tell you, but you were so young. David stepped between them, his presence cold and heavy. And so you buried the truth. You told her it was an accident, but guilt doesn't stay buried forever, does it? May's hands trembled. Who are you? He smiled. The one who remembers what you choose to forget. The room seemed to tilt. The air pulsed. May's vision blurred. She looked down, The floor beneath her feet was rippling now, like a reflection disturbed by wind. The cabin wasn't solid anymore. It was unraveling. Anna screamed, "Mom, don't look at him." May turned, and for a split second, she saw his true face. Not David. Not human. 1,000 faces, layered like thin glass, flickering between shapes. The priest from the wedding photo, a man in the crowd at her husband's funeral, a stranger on a bus years ago. All watching, all remembering. May stumbled backward, clutching the wall. "What do you want from us?" His voice came from everywhere at once. To finish what began that night, Anna grabbed her mother's arm, dragging her toward the door. "We can still get out." But when May looked, the door wasn't there anymore, just a flat wall where it should have been. David, or whatever he was, tilted his head, almost curious. "There's no going back. Memory doesn't work that way." May's eyes darted around the room. The only thing that seemed real was the Polaroid photo still on the table, the one from the envelope. The man in the doorway. She lunged for it. The air crackled. David's hand reached out, too slow, and May snatched the photo, clutching it tight. Immediately, the room shuddered. The shadows recoiled. The flickering stopped. David's smile faltered. "You shouldn't have taken that." May glared at him through tears. "You wanted me to remember?"
Fine.
"I remember." She tore the photo in half. A sound like breaking glass filled the air. The walls split open with a blinding white light, and then silence. When May opened her eyes, she was back in her kitchen. Morning light streamed through the window. The kettle hissed softly on the stove. Her phone buzzed. A new message. "Mom, I'm coming home today. I can't wait for you to meet David properly. He's wonderful." May stared at the screen. The date was wrong. It said 2 days before the wedding. Her hands trembled. The Polaroid photo lay on the table, whole again untorn. The figure in the doorway was gone. But now, in its place, there was something else. A second shadow behind her. The doorbell rang. May turned slowly toward the sound. Outside, through the frosted glass, she could see 2 silhouettes. Her daughter's, and a taller one beside her. A man holding flowers. The doorbell rang again. May's hands shook as she crossed the room, each step heavy with dread. The morning light didn't feel comforting. It felt thin, like paper stretched over a void. She opened the door just a crack. There they were. Anna, smiling gently, holding her mother's old scarf, now crisp and dry, and David, standing beside her, holding a small bouquet of daisies. May's heart pounded. She wanted to scream, to flee, to pull the door closed and never open it again. "Mom," Anna said softly, stepping closer. "We've been waiting for you to understand. All of this, it wasn't what it seemed." May clutched the doorframe. "Anna, what's going on? Who is he?" David's smile was warm, real this time.
Human.
The sun glinted off his hair, his eyes clear and alive. "I am him, and I am not. I'm here to help you see, not to hurt you." May felt her knees weaken. The scarf in Anna's hands trembled slightly. "See what?" Anna motioned for her mother to come inside.
Seat.
"I'll explain everything, the way I've come to understand it. But you have to promise me. You have to let it be true." May hesitated. Every instinct screamed danger, but a strange, irresistible pull drew her in. Inside, the cabin was different now. The walls were solid, the photographs gone. The air smelled like lavender and warm sunlight. Anna handed May the scarf. "Do you remember this?" May sniffed it. "Of course. I can't believe it's here." Anna's eyes were serious. "You thought everything was a dream, a hallucination. That man, the shadows, David, they were all real, and not real. Memories twisted into shapes to make you see what needed to be seen." May's brow furrowed. "I don't understand." Anna looked at David, who nodded once. "You've been carrying guilt, Mom, since Dad died. You buried it deep, and it manifested in ways you couldn't control. That creature in the photo, the shadows, the whispers, they were your mind reaching out for truth." May shook her head.
No.
"That thing, it was there.
I saw it. David's voice was calm.
Yes.
And it was always you. The fear, the regret, the memory of that night. All of it projected. May felt her mind spinning. But the wedding? The photo? The messages? Anna reached out and held her hand. Mom, that's the hardest part. Those were warnings. From me. From our memories that refused to stay buried. You've been living a half-life, forgetting not only pain but moments that could have saved us or warned us. That loop you experienced, it wasn't time. It was reflection. You needed to face it. May's stomach churned. Reflection? So, David? That creature? That man? David stepped forward. I'm both a memory and a guardian. I can take shapes. I can guide. I can frighten. But I cannot act without consent. You created the fear, and only you could end it. May's mind reeled. So, I wasn't crazy. Anna shook her head.
No, Mom.
You weren't aware. Too aware. That's why the shadow clung to you. You couldn't let go. May sank into the chair, overwhelmed. And the wedding? My messages? That text saying, don't go outside? Anna smiled gently. Those were premonitions, Mom. I sent them from within the memory. From the future you couldn't yet reach. You weren't safe because you hadn't reconciled the past. And when you did, when you faced it, the loop collapsed. May swallowed. Her hands shook. So I did it? I broke it. David nodded. You recognized it. You took responsibility for the fear and guilt. That is the key. May stared at him. But the shadow behind me? The figure that didn't belong? He stepped aside. That was the part of yourself you refused to see. Now you've seen it, and it's gone. You're free, as long as you remember the lesson. The memory is a mirror, Mom. The man in the doorway, the whispers, the mud, the locked doors, all reflections of fear and guilt. Not evil itself, but the shadow you carry. May took a deep breath. For the first time in weeks, her chest felt light. She glanced at Anna. And you knew all along? Anna nodded. I did. But I had to let you see it. The truth cannot be forced. It must be confronted. May looked at David again. The man who was not David, yet was. She realized that if she let herself accept this, she could feel relief, but also lingering fear. Will it come back? She asked. David shook his head. Only if you allow the guilt and fear to fester. Keep your memories clear, your heart honest. Shadows only grow when truth is denied. May exhaled slowly. So, we can really move on? Anna hugged her tightly. Yes, Mom. We can. Together. Days passed, but May noticed subtle changes. The house felt lighter, brighter. The whispers were gone. The shadows no longer lurked in corners. Yet sometimes, when the wind shifted, she thought she could see a flicker, not threatening, not malicious, but a reminder. A reflection of the past, a guardian in disguise, urging her to remember. She smiled, and for the first time in years, she felt at peace. That evening, as she prepared dinner, the doorbell rang again. May's heart skipped. She approached cautiously, then opened the door. A man stood there. He was tall, kind-faced, holding a bouquet of wildflowers. Her daughter appeared behind him, smiling. May's lips curled in recognition and relief. The man handed her the flowers. For you, May. For the courage to face yesterday, today, and tomorrow. May's hand trembled as she took them. Thank you, David. The man laughed softly. Yes, then no. Just someone who remembers and forgives. She stepped back inside, closing the door behind her. And for the first time, she truly understood. The past, the shadows, the memory loops, they had been tests, mirrors, and warnings. And she had passed. The sun fell across the floor, warm and solid. May felt the weight of fear lift from her shoulders. Some things cannot be explained. Some truths cannot be spoken aloud. But they can be lived. And May, at last, could breathe.